Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Komet. My co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How's it going?
Pretty good night tonight. Just nothing too special. I went out cycling earlier today, so I've been kind of just resting here and record. But got it on the pathways. It felt pretty good.
That's great. Did you notice I am not in the dark this time?
I did notice that. Yeah. What happened? You went and changed all the bulbs?
Except that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Last time we recorded, I was sitting in the dark, especially by the end of the episode. I think at that point the sun had gone down and yeah, it looked pretty funny. But the other day I finally got out to Home Depot and replaced all these bulbs. So it's quite nice. This morning, it was probably the brightest start to my workday that I've had in a while. So,
well, can't argue with that. Anyway, we should probably get to some soccer here. So we are the YYC Soccer Podcast. And if you are a new listener, what is our podcast all about, Scott?
So we talk about soccer in Calgary at the amateur, post-secondary, and professional levels. We talk a lot about Cavalry FC and the Calgary Wild, those, of course, being the two professional teams in this city. But we don't shy away from grassroots or amateur soccer, and we also talk a lot about the university and collegiate teams. And that season, post-secondary soccer season, is kicking off pretty soon, Jason. I'm excited to get into that in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I think we can provide a bit of a teaser that next week we're going to really start delving into some post-secondary stuff. But for this week, our topics are going to include previews for Cavalry FC versus Ottawa, the Wild versus Montreal. We are going to talk about just a few kind of odds and ends about some Calgarians playing around the world. And we do have an interview this week. Scott, who's our interview with?
Our interview guest is Owen Antoniuk. And Jason, I think that's the first time I've pronounced his last name on this podcast correctly.
Yes. We'll discuss that a little bit further once we get into the interview. But yes, Owen Antoniuk, we recorded an interview with him. And I think it turned out pretty well. Talked about his career, his pathway to get here. And he's had quite a breakthrough here the last month or so, I guess it is, really.
Yeah, he's really man of the hour in Calgary soccer at the moment. He scored a couple of goals for Cavalry. It was recently revealed that he is going to stick around for the rest of the 2026 CPL season. I think there was a bit of speculation that he would return to the University of Calgary Dinos this fall. But seeing how he's played, especially like you said in the last month, no surprise that Tommy Wilden Jr. has provided him an opportunity to extend his time with the pro team for a couple more months at the very least. So yeah, excited to run that interview and our listeners can get to know Owen Antoniuk a little better. He has technically, Jason, been on our podcast before, but I imagine most of our listeners don't recall. That was a pretty quick post-game interview that he and I did after a Crowchild Classic, I believe during the 2024 season, so quite a while ago, but that was pretty quick, and this one was a little more in depth, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get to that in our Cavalry segment, which I think we're going to start right now.
Hey guys, it's Owen Antoniuk here, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So before we run that interview, why don't we preview Cavalry's upcoming game against Atletico Ottawa? They'll be hosting Atletico this Saturday afternoon at Spruce Meadows. Kickoff is at 2:30. This is one of the games that's going to be on TSN. So if you don't have a One Soccer account, you can still catch the game on cable or satellite or TSN's website. Last time Ottawa came to town, it was a pretty one-sided affair with Cavalry winning 3-1 back in April. And actually, the last time these two teams played, which was not all that long ago, another pretty one-sided win for Cavalry, which is a little different from usual when it comes to their historic record with the 2025 champs.
We've always talked about Ottawa kind of being Cavalry's bogey team, although really hasn't been the case this year. Cavs have had pretty good success against them, but Ottawa has sort of been a bit more resurgent the last little while here, that had a coaching change. And it seems like they've kind of maybe found their footing here a bit. So yeah, they're probably even not quite the same team they were the last time the Cavs faced them.
I agree. Coming off a 4-0 win over Vancouver FC just yesterday, midweek game. And And as we've talked about, Vancouver FC has been really in form lately. So that was a bit of a statement win, I think, from Atletico. And I'm looking back, Jason, they actually haven't lost a game since August 1st. So not all that long ago, but since then they have beaten Halifax Wanderers. They drew Super de Quebec in the Can-Champ quarterfinal. And then they beat Super in the league 2-1 before that 4-0 win over Vancouver. So what is that, 4 games in a row, 5 games, something like that they haven't lost. So pretty good run of form. And yeah, they have, some of the best players in the league this season. If you think about Balu Tabla, not sure if he'll be playing in this game or not, but they've lost some of their best players from last season, 2 of whom have actually come over to Cavalry, although Amir Didic didn't really feature a lot for Atletico in 2025, but still a strong team, deservedly in 3rd place.
Yeah, definitely. And, I hate really being too much of a scoreboard watcher and like spending too much time looking at the table. But, I think it's kind of inevitable that you take a glance at it. And this game has real meaning in the standings. Forge regained 1st place. They won their match versus Super on Wednesday. So they've got 38 points. Cavalry's got 37 points. They've played the same number of matches. So Cavalry, wants to keep pace. And then that being said, Ottawa, they're in 3rd place now with 30 points. They've played 1 more match, but you look at it, and if Ottawa manages to get 3 points, and all of a sudden they've got 33 points and Cavalry have 37 points, and the difference between 2nd and 3rd is started to melt.
Yeah, and I think it is a time of season that you can really start talking about the table like that, because we are entering the last 10 match days, right? Like, I wouldn't say that the finish line is nearing, but it's definitely in sight for the regular season. And I'm sure that Cavalry wants to lift the CPL Shield for the first time since 2023. So if you think about Tommy Wheeldon Jr.'s comments after that Forge win last week, like, I think they recognize that it's within reach, right? That regular season title, but it's by no means going to be easy. And to get it, they're going to have to win games like this against good teams.
For sure. Yeah. So that match is going to be on Saturday afternoon. A few other notes to talk about regarding Cavalry, some roster news, where transfer window is closing up here. We had one player transferred out to a team in a very distant place, but actually a very appealing place too.
Yeah, that would be Jay Herdman, who is transferred to Bali United. I imagine they play in the top flight in Indonesia.
Yeah, they do.
I knew you'd know that. But no, I don't think this is a surprise at all. As we've kind of talked about, Jay Herdman has fallen pretty far down the pecking order of wingers for Cavalry, especially with Owen Antoniuk's recent form and the fact that Curtis Ofori has been playing every now and then. All of a sudden, you have 4 wingers challenging for the starting spot on the left in particular, which is where Jay Herdman favors himself. So no surprise to see him leave. And honestly, Jason, I think, Bali United, Indonesia, it is far away from here, but he is technically from New Zealand, right? So not all that far from where he grew up.
Well, most of his growing up was here in Canada, but he qualified for a New Zealand passport because of, I think he was born there because his dad was coaching there. So that's why he was born in New Zealand. And there is a connection with his father in regards to Indonesia as well, because John Herdman, he is now the Indonesian national team head coach. So the family has moved to Indonesia. They moved to Jakarta. So I realized that, Jay Herdman isn't exactly like a young kid, but 22 or something. But anyway, his parents have moved to Indonesia, so they'll be really close by. And yeah, it seems like a reasonable move for him, and wish him all the best. Just seems like it, just it's the nature of pro sports, right? You have moments like in 2024 where he was playing great, but just things change, I guess, and other players have risen up the depth chart.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I just pulled up Bali United on Wikipedia, Jason, and really cool crest. That's the first thing I'll note about that club. The second thing I'll note is their home stadium, Captain Wayan Dipta Stadium. Pretty big, capacity of 18,000. I don't know if they fill it for their games, but looks like a pretty nice ground to play at. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to be paying a bit closer attention to Indonesian football than I have in the past.
As of us recording here on Thursday night, there wasn't really any news about senior team type transfers. There were a couple of developmental players signed, a couple players from Cavalry too. I don't know how likely it is that they're going to see the pitch this year, but I guess it makes it official that they're training with the first team and they're on developmental contracts. And that's Daniel Pribitov and Kasper Plachinski.
Yeah, both very young. Daniel Pribitov is 17. Kasper Plachinski is 16. They're both defenders. Daniel Pribitov was named Defensive Player of the Year during Cavalry 2's end of season awards, featured in every minute in their APL season this year. And Plachinski was named Most Valuable Player by his teammates and staff during those end of season awards.
And he's with the U16 Canadian team that's currently in Chile. So the other roster news is the U Sports news. It was the deadline for CPL teams to announce whether their players on U Sports contracts were heading back to school or they were going to stay with the CPL club for the rest of the year. And Cavalry had 2 players, and now we know where they're going to spend the rest of the season.
Yeah, as mentioned, Owen Antoniuk is sticking around, but the other U Sports draft pick, Luke Ihama, is going back to Toronto Metropolitan University, although Cavalry does retain his rights for next year. So he could end up coming back to Spruce Meadows for the 2027 season. Jason, I guess this is as good a time as any to segue into that interview with Owen Antoniuk so that our listeners can hear what he had to think about the recent news.
Sounds good. Let's run that now. I'd like to welcome Owen Antoniuk to the podcast. Owen is a forward for Cavalry FC and is from Calgary originally. Owen, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on the announcement that you are going to be staying with the club for the rest of the year. Can you talk about the feeling of, quote unquote, making the cut and sticking around?
Yeah, it's pretty special to be sticking around. I think I had, thoughts of going back for sure to school to get some more minutes, and but I was always on the side of wanting to stick around and fight for first team minutes. And I think these couple of goals have helped my chances there. And I think even without the goals, I probably would have been sticking around. But yeah, it's great to be playing for Cavalry and now a little more official. So I'm excited about it.
And you alluded to them, on, but can you talk a little bit more about those goals? Both, long distance strikes with the first one well outside the box. So, I mean, is that something Tommy was encouraging you to do, is to pick your moment and take shots from long distance?
Yeah, 100% they were. I think for me, I'd say my strength has obviously been shown in the last 2 goals. I think, I take a ton of shots. I think at Dinos, I was taking 4 a game or whatever it was. And being with Cavs now, it's you kind of, when you're playing, you maybe don't take those chances as much, but now they're giving me the full green light to be hitting those. And I think the goal, the Forge goal, we had a set play design for me exactly like that, off a corner, and we ended up crossing it, but it ended up being in an open play, kind of similar situation. Just roll it to me on top of that spot, and I'd say that technique I've got it nailed down. So I was pretty happy to actually do it in such a big game. So yeah, no, just keep shooting. Really, that's what they've been saying.
Wanted to talk about your positioning. Like, you've been playing most of the time up front on the left side for Cavalry. Is that a position you're most comfortable with? Are there other positions you can play or would want to play on the club in addition to that?
Yeah, I think the left is my most comfortable. I feel that's where I can really seriously hurt teams, not even just with goals, with everything else in my game. And I think in terms of orientation towards pressing and defending, I'm always trying to improve that, but I'm more comfortable out there. Even in the 10 role, attacking mid role, I'm good in there. And I think the coaches have mentioned to me I'm the most diverse attacker they had, which is great to hear. So I can play on that right side. I just think I wouldn't be as effective as I would be on the left. But I mean, I'm sure a lot of players say it. If they can put you anywhere on the field, then that's okay. So as long as I'm playing, that'd be great. But yeah, the left side, I'd say.
Owen, this is your second year with the team. What's been the main difference this year? Have you felt like more confident, more like you're part of the furniture, so to speak?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was pretty similar seasons, to be honest. Like the last month's kind of blown up, which has been great. But I think I was almost parallel in terms of minutes and games played. So it wasn't maybe actually such a giant difference at the start. But I think it's just, continuing, training really well. I think I trained even better this season. I think that helps a lot. And just continuing to get, support from the staff. And you kind of linger around that, getting on maybe like for 5 minutes, maybe not being in the roster, playing a little more, and you're just kind of sticking around. And I think staying level headed and just ready to go has been the way to do it this year. And luckily I've got my opportunities, especially with that start they gave me. And I think goals just obviously help your profile sort of shoot up a little bit and just make yourself more confident. So a little different this season, but yeah, I think pretty similar to how it started last year.
If your approach seems like it was relatively similar, but do you think that this year there was any specific notable turning points, breakthrough moments where, they could have been the goals or maybe it was something else, just where you kind of really felt like you had broken through?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think Ottawa away, when we had such a good team performance, we went 3-0 away. I think it was 3-0. I can't remember. And I hit the post. And that was when, obviously not just the post, but that whole game, I felt extremely comfortable for the first time probably that season. Like I think I got maybe 20 minutes and just, hitting the post, just being like getting that close to scoring just kind of edges you on to actually want to put it in the back of the net. And I think the coaches were happy after that one. And for me, I just felt like that was like, okay, I can seriously cause some damage in the league and just feel comfortable with our guys. And it's nice. I think I mentioned in one of the post game interviews how nice it is to play with our guys. Like, everyone up top at the back is so solid and class. So it's easy to fit in with this group. So yeah, I've been lucky with that part of it.
Oh, and I wanted to ask about, like, you played with Ottawa briefly. Was it 2022?
Yeah.
I think I want to say, yeah. I mean, how much do you feel you've grown since then? Obviously, with the arrival of League One Alberta, your senior years, like your last couple of years with the Dinos as well. Like, how have you come along since that long spell with Atletico?
Yeah, I think I've come on a lot. I think obviously I want to say I was 18, 19 when I was playing there, and definitely felt like a step up in terms of physicality and speed and I think it was obviously you want to say that you're ready and you want to stick around and be playing all those games, but I definitely wasn't ready, and I think that was where I needed to take a step back and go play League One Ontario and have a good season there just to kind of get the confidence back. And I mean, I also was playing as a CDM at Whitecaps when I moved over there, and I enjoyed that position a lot. But I think I also took a step back thinking that I needed to change positions, which is interesting to do at such a, 18, 19 is not young to do that. And I always knew I could score goals. So I did that in Windsor. And then I knew coming back to Dinos, I'd be scoring and helping the team out. So I'd say in terms of, what I've grown into, I'd say physicality. I've become less of a boy, I guess, more of a man physically. And that, that's showing on the field, not just to coaches, but I feel better out there. So yeah, I mean, I can't believe it's been 4 years since I played in Ottawa, but I'd say, just feeling more like a pro every day, I guess, in terms of that physicality. And just, I've always had that technical ability, but that was kind of the thing that was missing. So
you go pretty far back with Tommy Wheeldon Jr. I think maybe you can maybe talk about, how far back exactly, but how does it feel though to reach this point in your career with him after, a bunch of these years that, like I said, you've known each other?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like it's, to see him come up to me after the game, after scoring that goal, I think that was pretty special. And, I've been wanting to do that since the club became a club in 2019. But it's more, I was with his dad more, with Senior at Blizzards. And obviously I knew Tommy Jr. ever since I was growing up. But it's kind of cool, that family relation that we had with Senior, basically helping me grow into the player I am today since I was 6. Met him at a camp, and he kind of took me on as a player that he wanted to develop, and took me on at Blizzards, and then went back to UK, and then obviously had a big gap of not really seeing either of them, and then to come back with Tommy Jr. and be in the squad is just, signing when I got drafted was a great step, but I think that this goal is just the milestone that's kind of taken everything like to another level. So wow, it's cool.
So Owen, you've obviously had to be quite patient, right? Even waiting for your moment in the CPL, and what I wanted to ask is about some of like the perseverance, and maybe ask if there's been any like setbacks, injuries, cuts maybe over your career that you kind of think about that have helped lead you to where you are today?
Yeah, I think perseverance for sure. Like I think there's a lot of, I'd say, moments more recently where you're not playing first team minutes and you're kind of thinking like, no, I'm not again 18 anymore. I'm getting a little older, and you maybe look at the other side of life and outside of sports as something that would maybe have to accelerate. And of course, I'm still going to school and doing all that. So I'm not just binning that off. But yeah, I think in terms of maybe cuts, like obviously getting released from Whitecaps I was expecting that one. They weren't going to move forward with that. But, and then Ottawa didn't keep me. So it was kind of like I was out of two jobs. And then I kind of went looking around and didn't really get any shouts from any clubs. And that was obviously frustrating to not get that. And again, it did feel like a step down, which I guess it was in terms of going down to League One. But I think the minutes at that age are so valuable. Even like obviously we talk about getting more minutes now, but at 19, 20, 21 range is where you really got to start playing games. So I'd say the perseverance of wanting to move to even Ontario and places where didn't know anybody just to go get some minutes was something really cool. And yeah, in terms of going back to Dinos, that was just, I think it all falls into the same pattern of just having to prove. I wanted to, I guess, prove people that I could still play at that level. And I think when you're scoring lots of goals in uni and League One, you want to be scoring goals in the pro league. And there's a bit of a gap where there's not maybe a level in between League One and first team minutes here, CPL. So kind of fighting for those minutes. And now it's just proven that I can score goals in the pro league. So it's been nice to do that last month.
We talk about having to be patient, that sort of thing. But, there's that clip in the circle after the game against Forge. It's pretty clear that, you're confident in your ability. Like, you have a lot of self-confidence and you kind of need that to play at a professional level, I think. But how do you balance that out, maintaining that self-confidence, yet having to be patient like this, kind of more of a psychological question, but like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, that's funny you brought that in, that little clip up. I've been getting lots of people talking about it. Yeah, that's a kind of, it is a psychological question. I think I am confident. That's kind of been the first time I've kind of spit it out in words in front of everybody. And what I was saying was true. Like I do in training, I'm scoring those kinds of goals, and that's why the coaches are telling me to shoot. Like they know, like everyone in the team knows, and obviously behind the scenes know, and I've seen it before in uni and stuff like that. But yeah, it's tough to, when you are on the bench or something like that, you're like thinking like I can hit one like that, or I could do this, and you just got to be patient, not blurt out stuff and be too overconfident. But I think it's, for me, in the last couple of years, I've been so confident going into every single game, where I didn't have that as a kid, even at Whitecaps in Ottawa, where now it's just like I'm like more like I know I can be the guy to score the winner or score a couple. And I think keeping it inside my head is obviously the right decision. But no, I am confident, and I think it's maybe waiting for so long. That's maybe why something like that would have come out of my mouth in terms of I can do this all the time, because it's been such a long wait. So I think I have fun with the guys in terms of sarcastically saying stuff like that. But no, it is psychological to just keep it in check, but maintain your self-confidence, because if you don't believe it, then nothing's going to happen. So
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end this interview?
no, I think it's all good, Scott. I appreciate you guys having me on, and I see you guys around all the time. So listen to your guys' stuff. So yeah, no, appreciate you guys for having me. So thanks.
So thanks to Owen Antoniuk for doing the interview with us. And Scott, it wasn't included in the main interview part, but we did learn that we've been pronouncing his name wrong all this time.
Yeah. I mean, and in my own defense for calling him Owen Antoniuk over the years, I've heard, I don't know how many people pronounce it that way, including Tommy Wilden Jr. So that was always what I based it off of. But I had heard Antoniuk, and I looked at the spelling and I was like, there's no way that's how it's pronounced. But yeah, he clarified it for us. And
you might have already heard the bumper where he says his name, Antoniuk, but here, I'm just going to run this little snippet at the end of our interview where he explains a little bit about the pronunciation of his name. So let's just run that right now.
Hey guys, it's Owen Antoniuk here, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So really, that just answered a question. Like, we really are saying your name wrong, aren't we? Your last name.
Well, that's funny. Everyone calls me Antoniuk, like everybody, even Tommy does. And I just don't mind it. It's fine. But my family says Antonuk. So you guys are welcome to change. I do not mind at all. So whatever you guys want is all good.
Well, look at my last name. I'm used to people not understanding the name, and it's like, doesn't bug me that much either. But I just think, that being said, I always prefer when people say it right.
Yeah, for sure you do. I do too. So I mean, it's all good.
This is Maggie Doherty Howard, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, Jason, let's talk about Calgary Wild playing Montreal Roses for the 47th time this season, playing out in Montreal at Boreal Stadium. Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff, so you can catch both Cavalry and the Wild this weekend. It's been difficult to catch both teams in action lately, as they've had a lot of kickoff times on the same day at similar times. This game will be on CBC Gem as well as the NSL YouTube channel. I was being sarcastic, of course. It's not the 47th time that they've played, but it certainly feels like that, doesn't it?
You know how we always have in our script for each episode, we usually pull up the previous meetings of 2026, and Calgary and Montreal have already played each other 4 times. This will be the 5th and final meeting. And after this match, the Wild will have played 17 of their matches, and 5 of the 17 matches will be against Montreal. I know it's a 6-team league, but that seems crazy.
That is crazy. And it means that their last 8 games of the season will not feature against Montreal. And I know they've only played Vancouver, twice? So the schedule for the NSL was super weird this year with so many games against the same opponent. Almost, some weeks it was back to back. So what I think the Wild will like, though, is that they've tended to play pretty well against Montreal. They have gotten 2 draws against them. Montreal is a strong team that has spent most of the season in the top 2 or top 3. But considering Calgary's, great run of form lately, the fact that they've gotten a couple of positive results against Montreal already this season, I'm sure they're feeling pretty good heading out to Quebec.
Yeah, I think they should be feeling pretty good after the way they've played the last few games. And weirdly enough, Montreal might actually be in more turmoil than the Wild are right now, because sure, Montreal's in second place. They're 6 points behind first place Ottawa, but they lost to the Simcoe County Rovers in the W Canadian Championship, and then they promptly fired their coach.
Yes, as we've talked about, which it felt like a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, but not following Montreal Roses that closely, we weren't exactly sure if there was maybe some other factors that led to that decision. But it did feel like it was directly related to it because it was so soon afterward.
So a little bit of a surprise there, I guess, overall. But yeah, obviously a strong side, and we don't have a good update about injuries. Typically, the NSL has put on their website player availability for the upcoming week, and usually they update it on Thursday during the day before we record. But they did not update it this week. So we don't have updates about, is Maya Jones available? Is Maggie Doherty Howard available? What about Jackie Sawicki? So we don't know. I guess the one thing we do know is Grace Doherty, her suspension's over. So I would expect that she'll be back playing right back. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with the Wild this week. And we'll see if they can keep this positive run of form happening.
Yeah, and again, will be a tough game. I believe Montreal are really strong at home, and they're actually only 3 points back of Ottawa, Jason. So this game puts them equal on points if they win. So that on its own is an incentive. And I also wanted to mention that they have a new president. Hey, just announced yesterday, new guy's president. So not only have they recently replaced their coach, but they've also recently replaced the top brass.
This is Myla Schneider, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, well, we've got a few odds and ends here before we wrap things up. I want to talk about a couple of Calgarians that are playing in Europe and what's the latest with them. And I think first one we should talk about is Bim Pepple. It sounds like he very well could be on the move soon.
And yet again, moving up the English football ladder. I think he is currently linked with 2 clubs in the EFL Championship, which is the second division in England, as I'm sure a lot of our listeners are aware. Those 2 clubs are Wrexham, the world famous Ryan Reynolds owned club, I guess Rob Mack too. And then the other one is Preston North End, a little bit more. I think they're a perennial competitor in the second division in England, whereas Wrexham are, of course, climbing up with their financial backing from Hollywood. But yeah, I mean, Jason, do you have a preference? Would you prefer to see Bim Pepple scoring goals for Wrexham or for Preston North End this season?
Well, I watch Welcome to Wrexham every season, so from that perspective, I think I'd like to see it happen, and then you could get all the behind the scenes stuff after once the new season premieres. So I'd say for that reason, I'd like to see it be Wrexham. But what about you? Do you have any real thoughts there?
I can't say I've really watched either of those clubs, so I can't say I really prefer one or the other. But obviously, I think Wrexham has all the publicity now with the Ryan Reynolds and Rob Mack ownership and the documentary series. So for the same reasons you mentioned, I think Wrexham would be cool. And I do think Ryan Reynolds would probably love to sign a Canadian, hey? So there's that national connection there. But Preston North End is a really traditional historic club, aren't they, in England? So
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to see him there as well. But just in this division, I can't remember the last time. I guess it probably was Sam Adekubi, the last time a Calgarian played in the second division in England.
Yeah, that could be right. I'd have to really think about it.
I'm just pulling up Sam's Wikipedia page. I know he went to England after his first spell with Whitecaps, right? And that would have been with Brighton and Hove Albion. But I can't remember what division Brighton were playing at the time. That was in 2016-17. And according to Wikipedia, he only had 1 appearance in the league and 2 in the cup, or 4 in the cup rather. So 5 games in total. But I can't remember if they were in League One or the Championship when he was there.
Yeah, I think maybe they were in the Championship, but I think you're right overall, though. There haven't been many players that have played at that level of late. So yeah, it'd be cool. I have heard that there are other teams that are interested. Apparently some MLS clubs are interested. They were unnamed in the reports I read. Leicester was interested, although apparently that was a week or 2 ago that the rumor about them. And then there's also other teams in Europe. So I think one way or the other, I kind of expect that Plymouth Argyle is going to cash in, make the transfer. So I believe the transfer deadline in England is September 1st. So they have a few more days to figure out how it would all work out. But I'd say right now, if I was betting on it, I would say that by the time the transfer window closes, he's likely to be playing for somebody else.
Another Calgarian, I don't know if I could say playing in Europe or heading to Europe, Jason, former podcast guest Myla Schneider has signed with a club in Turkey. And I believe that this is a club that she was previously linked with, although didn't end up making the move at the time.
Yeah, it's 1207 Antalya. And they're in the first division in Turkey. I believe it's a town or city that's right on the coast. But anyway, well, best of luck to Myla. We'll be following along with Turkish soccer now, I guess, and seeing what's happening there, as well as Trinidad and Tobago matches.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the YYC Soccer Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, so new episodes are waiting for you as soon as they're released. Visit yycsoccer.com for our complete archive and links to purchase my book, Here Come the Cavalry, which is all about the history of pro soccer in Calgary. We love feedback, so leave us a question on the website, connect with us on X, Instagram, or Blue Sky at YYCSoccer403. If you have a moment, please leave us a review, as it really helps other soccer fans discover the show. We'll be back soon with more stories from Calgary's soccer community. Until next time, keep supporting local soccer, and we'll see you at the match.